I have never watched classic Doctor Who before, and that's a problem. All the way back in 2018, I had the urge to watch Classic Who, so I made this video and asked people what episodes I should watch. But then the years went on and on and on, and I still never got around to watching classic Doctor Who because I procrastinated too much. But 2023 is Doctor Who's 60th anniversary, and I said, no more. It was finally time, so I went back to my video from 2018 and found this comment. This was the top comment on the video, and it's from Vital Mode, and they gave me one recommendation for each Doctor, and I thought that was pretty neat. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Welcome to a journey of ups and downs, and will I even want to watch classic Doctor Who after this? We start our journey in January of this year with the Daleks Invasion of Earth, and I was quite nervous. I'm a little nervous, definitely. I'm a new Who boy. Never seen it before, have no idea what's going to happen. I'm assuming the Daleks are going to invade Earth. But just looking at it now, I think it's 6 parts. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it now. I'll probably have to stop halfway through. My goodness, I didn't realize how long it was going to be. Yeah, look, Crispy, you're going to have to get used to that. Classic Who does not have the same pace as New Who. You know, it's older television, mate. Alright, enough chit-chat. I think it's finally time that Crispy watches classic Doctor Who. Let's get into it. And of course I went and purchased a projector for this video, because why not? Turn it on. Then if I shut this and this, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's not the episode, that's the episode we're watching. I was very excited to start this journey, and I watched all the episodes through BritBox. I really hope that Doctor Who never leaves BritBox. Here we go. Let's go. It's Doctor Who. God, this intro looks good. If you want to know what the Dalek Invasion of Earth is about, the Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara find themselves on Earth in the middle of the 22nd century, and the Daleks have invaded. Now the streets of London are stalked by the Daleks' brainwashed human puppets, the Robomen. Ian gets stuck on a Dalek saucer while the others forge an uneasy alliance with a desperate band of freedom fighters. And I must admit, after watching the first part, I was pretty hooked. And this shot of the Dalek saucer will forever be iconic. I love that. Gosh, I love cool sci-fi. You know, I don't have to watch them all in one day, but I am. And that I did. Then I went on to part 2, and I must say, I was actually really impressed with the practical sets. I know Doctor Who has a shoestring budget, but oh my goodness, I thought the actual interior for the Dalek saucer was truly something special and really good for the 60s. And now here's me struggling to understand the events of episode 2. Okay, so the Daleks are taking over Earth, and they're making all these Robomen, and they're making people go to the mines. They're mining for something. What are they mining for? Part 3 was jam-packed full of good stuff. I really loved the voice of the Daleks. I feel like I'm so used to Nick Briggs doing the voice that anything else just feels so different. Mixed with some excellent location work and that iconic Dalek laser, I was having a blast. But then I got hungry. Sorry for the awkward angle, but yeah, just finished episode 3 and I had a lot to say in that one. I really enjoyed that one. That was fun. Here's my bag of potatoes. So, see you in a bit. After making a delicious potato lunch, I slogged out and finished watching this iconic Dalek story, and I must say, I genuinely found myself having a fun time with it. I think this plot and this story could be translated to New Who very easily. It almost feels like a New Who story. But when I set out to watch this story, I did not realize that this was the episode that had this iconic speech.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back.
And just like that, I was reminded why I love this show. Good stuff. Now we move on to March 2023, and I must say, tragedy was struck. Classic Doctor Who was taken off BritBox here in Australia. There was nowhere for me to watch classic Doctor Who. Do I give up on this video? Do I give up on this channel? Do I stop watching Doctor Who altogether? But then I just asked my mate, Australian comedian Adam Richard, if I could borrow his copies, and he happily obliged. We saved the video! Today we are watching the Tomb of the Cyberman, the second Doctor story. But I don't know if this is the first ever Cyberman story. You might have to correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, Crispy, just doing some research for you here. This was not the first Cyberman story. That was 1966's The 10th Planet. But this was still a very early story for the Cyber Lads. Classic Doctor Who for me so far is so foreign, yet feels so familiar.
and I'm just having a really good time. So let's get into it. Hey, part 1.
Tomb of the Cybermen sees a party of archaeologists joined by the Doctor, Jamie, and Victoria as they land on the Cybermen's barren, deserted planet where they uncover what appears to be a tomb. But once it becomes clear that the Cybermen are not in fact dead, some in the group really want to reactivate these monsters.
Woo! Where is it? There he is. Hello. Hello, sir. Gosh, that's sick. That's an awesome Doctor Who logo.
My immediate thoughts upon watching part 1 was, wow, I love the soundtrack, that old sci-fi feel, and wow, I love Patrick Troughton. My goodness. And in this episode, he says he's 450 years old. He's a spring chicken. He's a very young fella here. My goodness, I'm used to looking, at Matt Smith. He's 2,000 years old. But there was one thing that stood out to me the most.
I really like what I think is the Cybermat. Back in 2011, I really wanted one of those Cybermat toys from the James Corden episode. But now I think I prefer a Cybermat from Tomb of the Cybermen. But anyways, on to part 2.
And the story went on with twists and turns. I didn't know who to trust, whose motivation lay where. I also appreciate that after 2 people had died, they tried to cancel the expedition to the tomb. I feel like modern Who should be like this. A lot of stories in new Doctor Who would be, much better realistically if the Doctor was like, all right, I'm out. I'm not dealing with this. And there was also a moment where the Doctor was correcting this bloke on his maths, and that just felt very River Song to me. I see what you're doing, Stephen Moffat. I see what you're doing. And once again, Doctor Who has it with the iconic imagery. I mean, those Cybermen awakening from those tombs, that is some sensational stuff. So cool, classic sci-fi, very nice.
Wowee, okay, part 2 has ended and it's getting real, folks. Of course, you don't ever try and negotiate with the Cybermen because they're gonna kill you.
Part 3 was also fantastic, some very, very cool imagery. The scene where the Cybermen are capturing people, if I was watching this back in 1967, I would be hiding behind my sofa, that's for sure.
This is a really good episode. Just finished part 3 and I'm really, really impressed. I like the motivations of everyone.
And part 4 was a brilliant finale, very, very well done. I feel like Patrick Troughton's Doctor is very well written, he's very witty, and I can see where Matt Smith got his inspiration. I'm pretty sure Matt Smith went on record saying that he was inspired by Patrick Troughton for his portrayal of the 11th Doctor. I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
Good stuff, Patrick Troughton. You're a legend. Absolute legend.
And this story did have some good direction for, 1960s TV. And, they end the story with someone sacrificing themselves to seal the tomb.
I'm enjoying this way more than some episodes of New Who. It's unreal. I'm really, really enjoying it. Hello, friends and family of the internet. Today we are watching The Time Warrior, which is a 3rd Doctor story. John Pertwee, I don't really know much about John Pertwee's era at all. I'm pretty sure he's the one that has Bessie, the really cool car. That should definitely be a thing in new Doctor Who because that's awesome. I have no idea what The Time Warrior is about, and now would be a great time for you to leave a like on this video and subscribe, because why not?
The Time Warrior sees the Doctor called in by UNIT to investigate when a number of scientists go missing from a top security institute. Following these kidnappings back in time to the Middle Ages, he is unaware that investigative journalist Sarah Jane Smith has stowed aboard the TARDIS.
Usually it's just the head that kind of floats away.
And I was left very surprised by the contents of this episode. First of all, the Sontarans.
I know who these boys are. That's Dan Starkey right there.
And the Brigadier was in it?
Is the Brig.
And this was Sarah Jane Smith's first story? Are you kidding me?
Come and meet your namesake, Miss Lavinia Smith, Dr. John Smith. How do you do, Miss Smith? Doctor.
Is that the first time they met? Oh my gosh.
That contains my equipment.
I'm witnessing history right now.
But even with all of this good stuff, I didn't find myself really connecting with this episode as much as I did the previous 2 we just talked about. It just took quite some time for the A and B plots to kind of meet up, and it felt like I was watching 2 different shows for a bit. But I was very glad that Sarah Jane Smith was there, because Sarah Jane just makes everyone's days better. I think we can all agree.
Just finished part 1 of The Time Warrior and I'm having a good time. I think the fact that Sarah Jane is in this does make this a million times more interesting for me, because I grew up with Sarah Jane in New Who, in the Sarah Jane Adventures. So, now I'm intrigued to see what, her original OG stuff was like, which I suppose is one of the added benefits of including Sarah Jane in the modern stuff.
As I continued watching the this episode, I found myself really enjoying it. Part 2 made me really like the design of the Sontarans, and I feel like the Sontarans used in Flux took heavy inspiration from their design here. But once again, for the most of Part 2, the Doc and Sarah seem to be on separate adventures.
Like the Doctor and Sarah have been separated the whole time, and I think that's on purpose to kind of show like how independent Sarah Jane can be, like how much she can hold her own. But I don't think the Doctor's done much this episode. He got himself captured and then got himself out of being captured, and then it looks like he's going to get chopped up with an axe, but I can almost assure you he's not. But I enjoyed that part much more. I think John Pertwee's growing on me a bit, and I like the interactions between Sarah and the Doctor. So I wonder how they're all going to wrap it up. I think this is a 4-part story. I hope it's not 6-part, but we'll see. We'll see.
Don't even worry, mate. It's just a 4-part story, not a 6-part, and wow. What a finale once again. I feel really foolish for this, but I always thought that the probic vent at the back of the Sontaran's neck was like a new Who thing. I didn't realize that that was a classic Who thing. I'm surprised I didn't pick up on that because it feels like, you know, a goofy thing they would do back in the day, but Doctor Who is still goofy. It will always be goofy. Dr. Goof. To summarize the finale, John Pertwee pretends to be a robot, he has an epic sword fight, and he knocks some guys out.
Well, hey, we finished it. That was The Time Warrior. I enjoyed that. They wrapped things up nicely at the end. They sent all the scientists back home. Sarah Jane now seems like she's going to be part of the TARDIS team, probably, and they blew up the whole castle, killing a lot of people.
Now, I must admit, for this story and the next story, I was sick at home because what's better to do when you're sick than have a doctor's appointment? Classic Doctor Who. So I didn't really feel like filming much in person, but yeah, I watched it. I watched the whole damn thing. Genesis of the Daleks sees the Doctor, Sarah Jane Smith, and Harry being directed by the Time Lords to the planet Skaro at the time of the Daleks' creation to prevent them from becoming the dominant race in the universe. And this story is a certified classic. It's iconic. We love her. She's untouchable. I mean, for one, Tom Baker. I don't think there is a difference between Tom Baker's portrayal and Tom Baker. That's just Tom Baker being Tom Baker, and let him cook, let him bake. The first part I found incredibly atmospheric. You know, it's almost like a World War II war zone, you know, this dreaded planet Skaro. And the entire story reminded me of another story many years later. I'm pretty sure they used that clip of Tom Baker in Series 9, so now I've seen where that comes from. If anything, I think watching Genesis of the Daleks made me appreciate what Moffat was going for in Series 9. It's almost like a modern day update of the story, but which one is better? Let me know in the comments. The only small problem I had with it was how long this story was. You know, it was engaging and I love the look and the feel of the episode, but maybe new Doctor Who has just rotted my brain. I'll say it, I like my Doctor Who shorter than that. And that's me saying that. I can't even imagine introducing, you know, a teenager to Doctor Who these days because of things like TikTok. You know, everyone's got the attention span of about 20 seconds. But fun fact that I didn't actually pick up when I watched this was that this was the first appearance of Davros in Doctor Who, and Davros still remains today a very big presence in Doctor Who. So good for you, Daddy Davros. And a lot of people hold Genesis of the Daleks as the best Dalek story of all time, and my counter argument is Asylum of the Daleks. I'm kidding, it's definitely better than that. But really, Genesis of the Daleks set a high benchmark for the show, and you can still feel the story's impact on Doctor Who to this day. This year, I was actually fortunate enough to meet Janet Fielding and help promote her event here in Australia, so that was kind of surreal. And I made it my mission to watch Earthshock before I met her. I've got a poster of us somewhere, hang on, I'll go find it. Here we are. Look at us, and she signed it. She said, "For Crispy, an amazing Whovian. Cheeky, in a good way. A conference to unite military powers against the Cybermen is taking place, and the Cybermen plot to destroy Earth by crashing a space freighter into it. The Doctor must stop them, whatever the cost. ... I took a lot of notes for this episode. Once again, I love the soundtrack. How old is Adric, and does the girl at the start kind of look like Kristen Wiig? Because I think she does. But did I like this story? Yeah, maybe I'm just a sucker for Cyberman stories. I didn't know that until I did this Classic Who experiment. I felt like the pace of these stories was really, really good and I was intrigued by these characters. The plot moved along really well. Also, Aussie representation with Tegan. I love the fact that they didn't make her, do an English accent or anything. They got an actual Australian person and they did an Australian accent in one of the most iconic British sci-fi shows of all time. It's pretty damn cool. And if you haven't already, after this video, you should definitely check out my interview with Janet Fielding because that was so much fun. But when you're talking about Earthshock, nothing can prepare you for part 4 of this story.
I didn't realize that this was the episode where Adric dies. That scene in The Power of the Doctor makes so much more sense now. But my goodness, top 10 Doctor Who deaths ever. Wow.
And the end credits are just chilling. They rolled in silence over a static backdrop. I think it was a great end to a great story. Some of the plot doesn't quite come together as well as I'd hoped. The final Cyberman scenes in the TARDIS did feel a bit odd, but not enough to ruin it. But the emotional end was just fantastic. But did people really like Adric? I feel like Adric's one of those names I've heard around, being a Doctor Who fan. And are people not a fan of Adric? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Attack of the Cybermen is set in London in 1985 and the planet Telos in the future. The Cybermen intend to change the course of history by destroying Earth with Halley's Comet in 1985, which would prevent the destruction of the Cybermen's original home planet, Mondas. Ooh, interesting stuff. Going into this, I really didn't know much about Colin's era, if anything.
I really haven't seen anything of the Colin Baker era. I know that his era was kind of controversial, and I don't think he left on the best terms with the BBC. I think Colin Baker kind of got screwed over. I think that's kind of what I know about the behind the scenes, but actually during his series, I don't know anything that goes on. Does he have one story that's entirely set in a courtroom and it's like one of the longest Doctor Who stories ever? I don't think this one's that long, but I'm excited. I'm very excited. Hey! There he is!
At first viewing of this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how loud and ridiculous Colin's outfit is, but I kind of love it. The highlight for me was the constant attempts to fix the chameleon circuit on the ship. I found that so funny. I loved that bit, and it was just a nice little, C-plot for the entire story. And I can't quite place Perry's accent. Where is she from? I'm gonna Google it. Oh, hang on, here we go. Nicola Bryant not only had to adopt an American accent whilst playing Perry Brown, but she also had to adopt an American accent for playing Nicola Bryant. What? When she was on the Doctor Who set, that is. Even her co-stars Peter Davison and Colin Baker had no idea she was actually British, so she pretended? Strange. Anyway, back to the story. I loved the Tegan reference. I love when Doctor Who is self-referential, and the fact that, I watched Earthshock just before this, I was like, nice. But in this episode, the Doctor gets pretty violent. He's pushing some dudes and just letting Perry carry a gun. I feel like it was a big beat in The End of Time when the Doctor's carrying a gun, and in The Power of the Doctor when, she let Yaz carry a gun. But Colin's just like, yeah, do what you want. Carry a gun, fake an accent, I don't care. But the first part was very entertaining, and I must say, what a cliffhanger.
Hell of a cliffhanger.
Part 2 came around, and lucky for me, this was only a 2-part story. I really liked the plotline of the two guys stuck on Telos trying to escape by cosplaying a Cyberman and a prisoner. That very much gave me Witches Familiar vibes with Clara and Missy pretending to be a Dalek. I don't know, there's just an interesting parallel. But I must admit, this story didn't leave the same impression on me as the previous episodes we've watched. I don't know why that is. I just don't think I understood everyone's purpose in that story, and it felt overcrowded. And thank goodness Doctor Who never feels overcrowded in the future.
Okay, so I just finished Attack of the Cybermen, and I don't know if it was my favorite one that I've seen. I really like Colin. I think Colin's quite good, and Perry. I think they were good together, and they had some really good banter.
Well, we made it to Doctor number 7 with Remembrance of the Daleks. The Doctor and Ace travel back to 1963 to retrieve the Hand of Omega, a powerful device created by the Time Lord race, and keep it from the Daleks.
Well, hey, we made it. Doctor number 7, Sylvester McCoy. I am very, very, very excited for this episode, Remembrance of the Daleks. I don't know what the episode is. I'm going to safely bet that the Daleks will appear. I've interviewed the cast, and I haven't really seen their stuff. So does that make me a bad person? Probably. Maybe this is the episode where Ace hits a Dalek with a baseball bat, because I know that's a big thing for Ace, that she just, you know, duh, duh. Daleks will be over there and she'll be like, duh, duh.
This story started off strange because this was the first episode that had a pre-title sequence out of all the episodes that I've watched of Classic Who, so that caught me off guard, but it was welcome.
That was weird. It kind of had like a pre-title sequence, so this feels like the most New Who-y thing ever to me out of all of them. Look at it! There's the TARDIS!
And boy, oh boy, can I just say, this four-parter was fun. It was very, very fun. I was pleasantly surprised to see the Doctor go back to Coal Hill, where it all started all those years ago. Like, what is this, an episode of Class? The Daleks will forever be iconic, but I must admit they were a little bit wobbly at some points, but I think they look great, especially the white Imperial Daleks. They look stunning. Russell, what are you doing? We've been using those bronze ones for far too long. Bring me the white Imperial Daleks, please. And what on earth? This was the episode that fixed the Dalek stare problem?
Just finished part 1 and I'm having a great time. Didn't realize it was 20-minute episodes, so that's pretty cool.
Part 2 came around and there was this mysterious floating grave thing, which took me far too long to realize that that was the hand of Omega. I was expecting some kind of Thanos glove because I'm basic. And then it ends on another almighty cliffhanger where it looks like Ace is in a bit of a pickle.
That's the end of part 2. Is Ace gonna make it out alive? I don't know. I don't know if she has any future interactions with the Doctor.
Part 3 made me realize how iconic Ace's looks are. Out of all the companions I've seen, I think she has the best outfits, I'm not gonna lie. Also, when the f did the Doctor have a business card? This sequence took me out. I had no idea. Like that, I was like, what? But even with all that nonsense going on, did the Doctor just break the fourth wall and look directly at the camera?
What? That was so unexpected.
The final part is pretty epic. We get to see the special weapons Dalek, and I enjoyed the set of the actual interior of the Dalek spaceship. The evil girl briefly becomes Emperor Palpatine, and of course, Daddy Davros rocks up. What a twist.
Hey, we did it! Sylvester and Sophie are one of the coolest Doctor companion duos I've ever seen. I think they're so much fun together. It looks like they're having fun on screen as well. So, nah, that was fun. A fun Dalek story. What a journey, what twists and turns. Yeah, Remembrance of the Daleks. Good job. Good job at existing. Good for you.
And good for you for completing this journey with me. And some of you might be like, hey, what about Paul McGann? I've seen that special a few times, and it wouldn't be a genuine video if I included that at the end here. So we're ending with Sylvester. Here's my ranking of all the stories we watched, and wow, what a fun time this was. I really had a fun time watching Classic Who. I genuinely think the reason some fans struggle to watch Doctor Who is because of this entire like binge culture we have introduced into the world. The actual proper way to watch these stories and the way they were released was, you know, weekly, one episode a week, whether that be 25 minutes or, you know, 45 minutes. But now we have the luxury of watching on BritBox. Well, not BritBox. I think they all just got updated to iPlayer, so congratulations everyone, you can watch it there. But regardless, Classic Who, my first time watching, wow, great. I really enjoyed it. It has been a lot of fun watching classic Doctor Who throughout the year, and happy birthday, Doctor Who. Happy 60, baby. Please let me know in the comments below what other classic stories I should watch. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video if I can watch all of Doctor Who. I don't know. That's a big ask. I shouldn't have said that. And I'll leave you with this. I think Tomb of the Cybermen might actually be one of my favorite Doctor Who stories of all time. I had a great time with it. Anyway, hope you're well, and Allons-y, baby!